I used to believe that when our parents get older, they go into a nursing home and someone in a facility takes care of them. But honestly, as I'm getting older and as I'm watching my parents age and seeing some of these facilities and places where they go, I don't know if that's actually the answer. And it makes me think a lot about, I used to think this in the past, that that's just where older people went because that's where my grandparents went. And it was always this like catastrophic thing happened. One minute, my grandparents are living on their own, they're independent. I think there were a few slow things that happened. I think my grandpa, we had to take my grandpa's driver's license away because he just wasn't driving very well anymore. And my grandma was taking care of them, doing the cooking, doing the cleaning. And then I want to say one day she fell, and that was it. Like no longer could they stay independent in their apartment because she couldn't clean for them, she couldn't cook for them. And so they went, I feel like they went into assisted living first, and then from there ended up in a nursing home because they needed more care. And if I remember right, the facilities are nice. The people that were there were super nice. It was great. And also, it was just sad. I feel like if for the family members that didn't live near them, we didn't see them very often. We didn't talk to them very often. Granted, this was before cell phones and FaceTime and Zoom calls. So, really, a lot of you could either call them on the phone or write letters. And over the years, I've seen a lot of intergenerational households. I've seen it in Mexico, I've seen it in Bali, I've seen it in Thailand, where, people kind of live in sort of these like compound style homes. Grandma and grandpa live there, mom and dad, the kids, the grandkids, like everyone kind of lives, and they're not living all in the same house in the same bedrooms. It's almost like they all have their each own little house like within the family property or compound. And it's interesting how it works because so in the modern day, husband and wife are off to work, grandma and grandpa are taking care of the grandkids, which I think is super beautiful because then you get this like why you have your wise older generation like teaching, and they're patient and they're calm and they're just excited to see this younger generation learning and helping them learn and teaching them what they know. And and then as they get older, the community comes around and helps with things. So there's more in-home care, there's more people who come to your house to check on them if there's an illness or a medication or something like that. Whereas in the US, I know certain families are trying to take care of their parents, and like one of the parents has passed, and so the other parent moves into the house with one of their kids, and so they're kind of doing that same thing that I was talking about that happens in like Mexico, Bali, Thailand, where they just become a part of the family unit in the younger generation's house. But there's not a lot of home care available, or maybe there is and I just haven't looked into it. But I'm seeing so many different ways now of taking care of the older generation that also contributes to the younger generation and the younger kids and the grandkids, that I feel is so much more fulfilling to the older generation and to the younger generation than just putting them in a nursing home and letting them live out the rest of their days. Obviously, I do understand there's circumstances where some people need round the clock care, or they need doctors and nurses available. So I'm not saying that the assisted living or the nursing homes are not a good choice. It's just that I wonder how we can make it more of a community within our younger generation community, as opposed to being like a place that happens over there. And just a lot of this is coming up because my parents are getting older. I am recognizing that I want them to make decisions in the next few years for their, last years of life, last decade of life, however long they live. I mean, they could live another 20, 30 years for all I know, especially with uh, technology and everything. But I want it to be their choice. And going back to me just thinking that, oh, all old people just go to assisted living or nursing homes when they get old. Well, that's coming from a kid's perspective, or even, that was happening in my early 20s. It's like that's all I was seeing and that's all I was hearing about. So that's all I knew of what happens when people get older. And wanting to, so going back to my parents getting older, I want it to be their decision what happens to them, where they spend their time in their last years or decades of their life. And I don't want that decision to be made out of fear. I want it to be made out of fun. I've, looked online for a few places that are like assisted living, but they're like villages, they're communities. You might have assistance with your living, which I feel like should be assistance with cooking and cleaning and organizing schedules and technology, emails and making appointments, stuff like that. As just assistance, but you're still a part of this big community. You're not sequestered away into this one building with all these other people, in assisted living, and you have kind of a rigid schedule. I mean, that's what I think of it. I don't know if that's what it's like. I've been doing some research into some places, and it sounds like they are evolving and turning into more of these like villages and these communities where you're still somewhat independent, but you also have help available. You have people in the community that can come over and help you change the sheets on your bed. And realizing that assisted living doesn't have to be like helping you bathe and helping you go to the bathroom. I think that a lot of people just want some help with the cooking and some help with the cleaning. Um and yeah, I have so many ideas for this in so many ways. I want to combine the older generation with the younger generation, and so we can learn from them and they can learn from us. How this goes back to a video I made a while back about, being my parents' tech support and how scary that is. It's hard being away from my mother, uh, just in that I want to be able to help her in person, or I just want her to be able to call someone, her neighbor, her friend down the street that knows all the things about computers and printers and whatever, and can just come over and like help her sort out those things in 10 minutes, as opposed to it being this daunting, scheduling another, genius to come over and help with those things, who oftentimes are so much in the tech field. When they come to talk to a layman, a person, just a normal person, they start using all these terms and all these technological ways of speaking. And usually I get the phone call afterward that's like, well, they told me that I need a new hard drive, SSD drive. The printer isn't connecting to the thing because of the landline and the blah, 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 blah. And they're using all these terms that obviously, while the guy was saying it, they just went straight over their head. And yeah, just having a community of people that can support each other with those little things and sometimes the big things. Uh, yeah, this is just a perspective I've been shifting over the last, I want to say, 20 years. Uh, and it ties into so many things I've been thinking about lately, with giving our parents and the people that are aging more options, more choices, more and choices and options that sound fun, that don't sound like, hey, we're going to send you to the nursing home. And that's like, it sounds like a hospital slash death sentence. It's like, no, like, I want to be like, we're sending you to the last point of contact village, the last person standing village. I don't know. The party village. Something that's just, it doesn't sound so sterile and sounds so final. It's like, because yeah, it might be the final destination for these bodies, but it's not the final destination for their souls and their energy and all of that, that's just gonna transcend into the next thing. And that's a whole other conversation. But yeah, is this something you're struggling with? Is this something that you're thinking about? Are your parents getting to an age where you're starting to wonder, where do they want to live these next 2, 3, 5, 10 years? What do they want their last years to look like? Um, how can I support that? That's the other big question for me, is how can I support that? And part of making these videos is how I'm trying to support that. Um, the more subscribers I get, the more you guys like these videos and keep watching them. Thank you so much. It creates ad revenue. So once I get to a certain milestone, YouTube pays me ad revenue. And I want to use that money to like help my parents have a landing zone for the last years of their life. And so I thank you so much for watching my videos. Thank you for being here. Let me know in the comments just what is something you used to think, you know, or how it's supposed to be that your parents are live, and if it's something that you think could change or should change or want to change even. So yeah, that's my story for today. Thanks so much for being here.